Yo, what's up? It's DJ Dabbling, aka The Last Dragon. Face to face. Figured we'd do something a little new than what I've been doing before. Video. I mean, it's not that hard. And, just bring this back full circle. Welcome to episode 9 of Occupy Your Third Eye. Hey, check out the logo on the shirt. Yeah, you can get that pretty soon at the Occupy Your Third Eye store, coming to an internet website near you. www.occupyyourthirdeye.com. But today we're gonna just be kind of open and honest as much as possible. Oh, look at my hair, man. Yeah, but God is good, and for every time I'm able to express myself through speech, I'm thankful. It doesn't always come. Sometimes the mind is much quicker than the speech. And this is really just about that journey. The journey of dragon season. Here for episode number 9, we're going to decode a little bit about, what goes on in an open pineal gland mind. Maybe, I'll just bring some light to the subject that you just haven't quite maybe pondered. I don't know where your brain's at. But here we go. To really start this out, I need to, be a little mythical with myself, so to speak. But just we'll paint a picture. Let's put it like that. And it's just really some opening, jargon that I sort of have to say. But my soul began this journey at the age of 11, into the fourth dimension of time and space. And it all happened at this small Pentecostal holiness church in North Carolina, where I received what is called the Holy Ghost through fire baptism and the evidence of speaking in tongues. Eye-opening and refreshing to the psyche. I was different from then on out. I won't even lie. It was a lasting impression on my soul to have the evidence of speaking in tongue, and feel like I was being gifted, so to speak, some other language. This happened at 11, and yes, it separated me from my classmates. Amazingly, I didn't know, they didn't know what I could see now, or even let's say vibe off of now. But there was history before this, going to church, that my spiritual side was very keen to seeking. I was very curious, like Curious George, little monkey. Anyway, but I was sort of thrown into this now at 11, and or actually say 10, and it only took a year for me to become saved, as the Pentecostal church teachings would call it. But I was left with a burning question that all intelligent souls would ask at the age of 11, 12, just because I was blessed enough to be world traveled at that age already, with the father in the military. Living overseas, you get to see other realities that don't make sense to Americans, especially American religious teachings that are stupefied by the dumbing down here in culture. So let's just jump right past this, because this is still leading into dragon season, okay? Trust me, this has a meaning, and we're only 4 or 5 minutes into this video. But it was during these days at church I would ask elders, just answer me this one question. This was a Sunday school question I could ask any Sunday school teacher. Please explain to me, why is God condemning the kids born in China, and the kids born in Africa, and the kids born yonder, that aren't going to be exposed to our religion and our Pentecostal understanding, they don't receive that gift. They are condemned to hell. These Sunday school teachers would kind of make these like faces like, you shouldn't be asking that question. But it was okay because I didn't really want an answer. It was really just to show the other kids in the Sunday school class that, we didn't have all the answers. And they didn't really either. Yeah. But I started off with that just to say that, that broke me away at an early age when some of my questions couldn't be answered that way. I didn't really accept that concept of a white Jesus, to be honest with you, either. It was just something that, corresponded with condemning people to hell. That condemning people to hell sign. I don't know. Is that what that? Anyway, that has nothing to do with here or there. But this was the unique view I started to grow into 12, 13. And at 13, I remember living with my grandparents back in the beautiful home they owned. That was on the outskirts of D.C. and it was like in Maryland, right there on the borderline D.C. Maryland. Beautiful home, big backyard. My parents were married in the backyard there. Beautiful basement that had a cellar, where he hunted and hung wild game, and he had a garage that had a garage for a mechanical shop inside of it. I mean, he had a huge library downstairs as well that was like, wall to wall, very long, very deep. And he was a Moorish, studied man. But at the same note, he was in a religion for family reasons, I would say. And handed me this book at the age of 13 because he noticed I was just so curious, called the Book of Enoch. It says to me, this was left out of the Bible. Find out why. Real kind of serious. But I took it as, okay, grandfather, that's cool. Not really realizing what he was showing me. And at the time, it just left a deep impression in my mind where I later sought out what was left out of the Bible. And, I studied that very, very deeply all the way till like I was 19. That's just how my mind works. You give me a task, I'll take years to study it. But that's how, you gain a lot of knowledge anyway of things. But that really, opened up my heart and my mind, having that study and starting to turn inward more, especially with some natural gifts that I knew I already inherently had. But these are gifts that everybody has that inherently they don't know about. No one that I've ever come across can't receive thoughts. And we'll get into that. That's non-local science we'll be getting into. About dragon season. Because this is about a science that I've sort of, been doing of my own mind and soul through the blessings of, trying to reach the one God more often and always be in tune with the one God. And that's what I realized is missing in a lot of the spiritual teachings that just run rampant around the planet. I just couldn't foresee a real future with bullshit, chains around people's minds, having now grown, I would say, to, see that what was being taught was skewed and was missing one thing, was how do you become closer to being with the one God? Because when you're being one with that one God, certain things just start to happen. And it has not a lot to do with faux pas, dogma, this law, that law. There are spiritual things that have causes and effects. They are not, so to speak, law. Because if I want to get deep into this, I'm going to have to take you there on this journey with me in the dragon season. So I know that's what you're here for. Have you ever wanted to be a superhero? I'm sure you answered yes to that. Well, have you also ever studied, like, let's say, science, technology, engineering, math, art, design? You can answer yes to a couple of those. Good, very good for you. Because that's going to help you get to an ideal path of a personal mental training that you can take to raise your consciousness to your own personal dragon season. And it's in these great times that, there's this energy around on the planet. This is not mumbo jumbo, but thanks to technological advances, I would say, and timing, preciseness of how planets build energies down here while we build energies back up that way. There is a connection now where, you can expand your own personal energy outward, and learn to be a master of this, as it allows you to do some things that approach being quite amazing, taking you into that hero world, I would say, into that world of where there's something that seems almost impossible. You're yearning for it, and the possibility of it being right and rightful. You know what I mean? Not like your will, but the will that makes everything right within that smoothness. Because it should have, if it's going to be a power given to you to control certain things, the humbleness that must be maintained, to not abuse, is almost like saying you can win a gold medal only if you won't take that gold as value or wealth, but more as a gift of achievement, and just look at it like that, and never really look at its monetary value. I mean, anyway, that's a lame kind of metaphor, but you're blessed to have this type of energy here on the planet right now, and I witnessed it coming down in 2010. Witnessed more than what people I've been paying very close attention to or very well studied seem to have witnessed. But I saw a change in the sun going from a yellow shift to a blue shift. And it was amazing this summer, magic that was happening. And I mean, Kanye's music was in the air. I would go out to, I was in Long Beach at the time, and I would go out to the beach and sit there and gaze into the clear blue sky, for hours sometimes, just to free my mind. But the energy around was so powerful. A lot of times clouds would manifest right above my head. In fact, that happened a lot. It was kind of a beautiful thing to see these little circular things like making these clouds appear. But anyway, and I would say to myself now, is this black magic? Is this, is this the art of using your pineal gland to its capacity to make things, especially in nature? I want to expand on this because maybe you don't understand what I just said. I remember very well, right around that time, this gift of just being conscious of how water forms, to take what was going on with the transformation of the sun that I could see. And the only reason I'm saying I think I could, see this was because of technology, by the way, anyway. I was paying very close attention to the movement of the sun within, I would say, some constellation through a phone app that allowed me to sort of guess. I don't know, my heart felt it, but just look up at the sun during a certain time of the year. And, I received what I would call sun programming, because the sun was and always is a dragon's repository, where there's this information well of information, and I mean archival well of information, far beyond what I think they call the Akashic records. I'm trying to play with these words, that the New Age movement has. And the sun's energy can be decoded through your pineal gland, through a state of meditation that has to be reached through Kundalini training. And we're connecting dots here with dragons. They call the Kundalini your inner fire. It's something that, is inherent in every human being. Michael Jackson knew of this very much so, and I've talked about that before. I know Mike enjoyed Kundalini exercises that allow your pineal gland to just ignite. Mine is humming so powerful right now that there's signals I get that I have to discern and keep them separate from my logical thinking, which is why we have two hemispheres in our brain, and we have to be able to properly use both sides for what they're intended, and it can be done simultaneously, one at a time. I was recently reading a book as I'm going to dragons. What's up? Ooh. But anyway, the dolphin, when it sleeps, can turn off one hemisphere of its brain so that it can be conscious and come back up and breathe, because it is just a mammal, has to come up for air. But that ability, means that they're obviously doing some kind of hemisphere conscious, control. Even if it's subconscious instinct, we have that same ability as beings of, I would call it, temples of souls, spaceships of souls, suits for souls. Anyway, this is very, very much so into what I want to tell you about, reaching your own superhero-ness and being connected in what I call that shared fourth dimension of space-time, and how it's connected to an imaginary place. It's a network that grows of thought tied into non-local activity of the consciousness that's inside of you. And that consciousness that is inside of you is able to forgo this body forever. Just understand that. That's the real truth of the science, is that there is no death of a consciousness. There is a death of the fleshly spacesuit that you must wear to be a holy soul walking and enjoying the third dimension of reality with touch, taste, five senses, and the sixth sense being that of the unknown knowledge that is being permeated around you like a coded matrix. But you have the sixth sense that, and then there's the seventh sense as well, which goes into why dragons, you definitely want to get to their seventh chakra, to open it up way up here, this crown, because this being your sixth chakra, pineal gland, this six-sided object points to the fact that this right here helps you burst into this world that is obfuscated. And to de-obfuscate it means you have to be willing to program in its language. And that gave me a provocative idea in 2010 to do a mixtape that would be programming the music industry. I don't know. That's really what I thought. It came to me in some kind of movement of my soul that said, Dablin, why don't you just make a mixtape that, for one, even though it's just going to be some underground art, that you're creating, has some kind of significance, and pulls in techniques that are used against people in the world of the fourth dimension of time and space. Subliminalness, subliminal programming. Because as we get into the deeper sciences of decoding dragon season and why your soul is non-local, I mean, it can be non-local. The New Agers call this astral traveling. It's a great word, but let's call it being non-local existence. You don't exist only here. This is a tool. This physical being is a great tool. It has sensory objects for third dimension, sensory objects for the fourth dimension. It has the ability to translate solar data. It's superhero-esque, but it's being suppressed. And I want to know the best way to unsuppress that. And I thought maybe it was through, influence through music. But I know that, this is what the powers that be who would say, they use the other side of the coin of this power that they know exists, and they have the versed people in the ability to use non-local existence to influence people. And they use it very well. They're adepts at this. It's no denying it. But the real truth comes down to, how do we, as people who are awake and still learning how this, could really all work out, because this is the truth of how time works. Everything goes forward, and everything's coming back, and everything's going up, and everything's coming down. So time has a way of finding where it needs to be. That's really what I'm trying to say with that whole metaphor. Time finds where it needs to go, to correct, especially with the planetary consciousness that we have. It always will correct itself. And there's beings on this planet right now that are here to help that process. And people in the New Agers talk about this all the time, but they're more just adepts like myself. Shout out to a lot of you adepts out there who will probably watch my video for the first time if you decide to, because I know all these people, exist, and I can sense them. Dabblers. Not everybody's a dabbler, even if you get that little tweet from me sometimes. A dabbler of the ability to non-localize yourself is probably one of the best art forms you can learn. And it takes us to that other burning, seething question that you might have answered yes to earlier, which is, do you want to be a superhero? Do you really want to have that glow? That ability to burn your chest, feel this energy come from all inside your heart chakra, burst, you know what I mean? And I mean, it comes down through your body eventually, from your head to your heart to your lower chakra, so to speak. I don't really want to get into the mojo science there, because a lot of that doesn't have to be proven in practice. You just have to know that it exists sometimes to make it work. Not knowing it exists, it might not work. It's a lot of thought. Imagination is a crazy world, but it's also the world of reality. And you don't know what doesn't exist until you can play in your imagination with it and make it reality. And I'm not talking about the law of attraction here. Dragon season was not about the law of attraction. It never really was about any kind of law. It was more about experiencing influence through non-localization to paint a picture in the third dimension that could translate into the fourth dimension and fuck up with some things in the fourth dimension, because for a fact, I know that that's what the music industry has as a global plan when it comes to being able to influence with their power Why not use some black magic? They said to themselves. They had practitioners very artful in it, not quite knowing the sacred trueness of how to use it, being able to use it, and then considering magic was the faux pas, the dogma part of it. It's a natural ability of a human being. It's how this race is able to, I would say, survive without technology. We have to be non local to know other things around the planet. But anyway, you want this power because it's going to help you attract the next step in your life for your own packaging as, let's say, an artiste, whatever your art is. Because, as Chuck D so beautifully said in a tweet, art is God talk. In the art of creating, in the art of being a molder, in the art of creating a baby, you want to inject all your DNA and the best DNA that you've chosen out there for the baby to be something kind of cool. And this is just the law of procreation. Everything kind of works on laws of procreation. There's gender throughout everything, and we'll get into that further on in this talk of dragon season. But I don't need to really stress too much about the I would call it artful parts of this. Let's go into what the tool of delivery is. The tool of delivery is sound, music, and the powers that be know this is the favorite control mechanism. And I don't need to even stress this anymore. So I just decided to take liberty and make a mixtape. Liberty to change what I know with my imagination and the power that deeply resides in myself to do, which was just uncursify the music. I mean, in a way, like take off the imaginary chain of the devil that had been put inside the music to program people and start to make that devil the opposite of what it was by showing it its mirror image of itself by being non-local on it. You can visit upon demonic things and then reflect them if need be. Sometimes the reflection's not needed. Sometimes your non-locality energy can push buttons. But in that state, that's something we'll get into. So Dragon Season was now going to be about me performing my own black magic spell, but with white intent, so to speak. So maybe I was performing a dark energy spell in my mixtape through the intent I put into it to brighten up. Oh wow, there's that energy. To brighten up the consciousness in music by just planting the seed, because I know how deep soul intent goes and that music can carry it faster than anything. So I started with that, Dragon Season Volume 1, aimed at a crush that I had at the time. Because, like I say, anything that's going to happen as far as happening in this fourth dimension of communication, of non-locality, has to be attached to a great emotion. And great emotions are bliss, love, sexual desire, intense longing for being missed. And then the opposite spectrum that is really very much more intense in its power, which are like the fear, the anxiety, torture, terror. These things are also energetic and they can cause a big emotion. There goes my heart chakra again. but you can cause up, certain emotions. And the more sensitive this heart chakra is to certain energies, after having been non-local a lot, you just sort of know what's around you for that energy that you're protecting and or sending out. And it's a mental technology. It's very much so in the mind. God's all in it, but God understands that the mind is the tool he gave the physical flesh to use as a powerful entity. And I just chose to now sort of like enact my own justice through mixtapes. And I would go after, in a non-local way, the music industry from then on out. Now, manifesting music would be my next crazy-faced idea. And I said, okay, so with all this desire I have, let's manifest some music. And I took to the internet. I took to the psychic branching that is now out here on the planet called the internet, and began to push my Kundalini energy, my dragon energy across the internet, just to see what would pop up. See if I could influence, through being non-local in a machine, someone who was also willing to play the non-local game. And I found a soul out there. I found an angel, so to speak, physical being that also knew of non-local abilities. And that began the musing of what would be called Dragon Season Volume 1. And the goal was to take Dragon Season beyond 2012, at the seed stage of 2010, beyond 2012, to seed it though in 2010. My goal was totally to do that. And the reason my goal was to do that was because of the energy change that I'd witnessed happen, and now this false information I kept witnessing come down across the interwebs of, cycles of cycles anyway. But the goal was to break the cycle and to inject something in that would start my own mental cycle, where I could alchemically change sand into glass. Something that I saw falling apart in front of my eyes, I knew just had to be heated up. You heat something up, temper it, you know what I mean? It becomes more powerful. It becomes a tool of what it could be at a more refined state, like going from bronze to iron to steel. And that's really what this journey is about. How do you sharpen a dragon's sword, which is your soul, and give it the purest power through music to influence? And that's the beginning of Dragon Season Decoded. Stay tuned for part 2. I'll get into more of this because it's true. I mean, what I was taught in church at very tender age has affected me all the way through my life, and it's just brought us full circle to where I would use this as a teaching tool for what I discovered at a young age about spiritual power that is far beyond, or even far beyond what people want to admit to themselves is being used on this planet right now as a form of control. So occupy your third eye, folks. Don't let the ones that have the power, just send it out and start using you, because they do that. And we will continue this Dragon Season Decoded next weekend. This is Occupy Your Third Eye. Check it out, because we dabbling, baby. We dabbling, baby. We dabbling, baby.